Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Horrific Chat. In this segment, we discuss the motivations and inspiration of creators while also having topical discussions. Today, I'm joined by members of the Seattle chapter of the Horror Writers Association. Nearly said that right. We are going to look into what it takes to become a reviewer, the reasons for starting, the techniques to use, and pitfalls to avoid. And before we begin, just like to take a moment to introduce our panel. First and foremost, obviously, Brianna, welcome. Nice to see you back on the channel again.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
For the lovely folks that maybe just joined for the first time, do you want to just introduce yourself and just give a wee bit about your background?
Sure.
Yeah.
My name is.
Do you want to do anti-clockwise? We'll start Brianna, Thorin, Clay. We'll go that way.
Okay. So my name is Brianna Malaki. I'm the co-chair of the Seattle chapter of the Horror Writers Association. I'm also on the Horror Writers Association social media team, so I make a lot of our content, videos, those sort of things. And I have a couple standalone horror items and a lot of publications kind of spread out between magazines and zines and all of those sort of different formats.
Fantastic. And Thorin, welcome.
Hello, I'm the outsider here. I'm not part of the Horror Writers Association, but I snuck in on.
That's okay, neither am I.
I have a friend Joe who might be showing up, but I'm a writer. I'm a fantasy sci-fi writer. I'm working on my first book currently, so I don't have anything out yet. But I've been sort of introducing myself to groups like this. I think it'd be a great helpful leg up. Getting in, yeah.
Fantastic. And Clay.
Hello, coming
Welcome.
to you from a coffee shop, so that is what's happening in my background. So that I am a horror writer as well. Hopefully, you guys can hear me.
Yep.
Okay, good. I'm a horror writer as well. I'm also in the Seattle chapter of the HWA. I am the program coordinator now for them. Yeah. And I have a couple books out. I have a short story collection and a novella that's available, and then I have a new anthology coming out at the end of the month. So it's published around so yeah, that's what I'm up to.
All right, fantastic, great to meet you. So, obviously, this is about this is Brianna's actual idea. You approached me about this. What was it made you think about this as an idea? Was it a conversation or something? Because this was actually a while ago we started planting seeds for this.
Yeah. So our chapter meets every other month, and we go through the typical list of meeting things, and then it's kind of a free-for-all discussion. And so one of the things everyone was kind of bouncing around was what they kind of were areas they needed help with or thought were interesting. And so we do have a handful of members that were considering getting more seriously into reviewing, like starting their own sort of blogs, or maybe they're a contributor writer somewhere, that sort of thing. And so kind of the thought process of what makes a good review and what are the different places you can leave a review. Do you start a YouTube channel? Do you do reviews on TikTok? Is it just Goodreads? All those sort of, it's a huge process, and picking where you want to do it and sort of what readers want to see from a review. And so I reached out to you, Colin, because I thoroughly enjoy listening and watching your little reviews on like movies and games, and I thought it would be really good covering all the
Do you
different
like the ones
formats.
where I review something really terrible and you just watch the pain in my face?
I'll be like, okay, and need to watch that.
I have people purposely stitch me up, and this is something as a reviewer you come across. They will deliberately recommend a terrible movie they know I'll hate just to watch me suffer.
Yeah.
There are evil people out there on the internet. That's one of the things.
Yeah, it's like you don't just have to review books, and you don't just have to leave reviews on where you bought the book. And so, just having that conversation about all the different opportunities, I thought was nice.
It's easy to rally behind hate. If they like it too, everyone rah together.
I think that's when it turns into self-loathing. That's what they like better. It's like, why am I doing this? Why am I spend my time watching this thing?
Well,
Or
good
why did I read that thing? Why'd you do
sacrifice for you
Yeah.
guys.
Yeah, people just love to see the pain.
Yes.
But I suppose the first question I would say you have to ask yourself is, why do you want to become a reviewer? That's the main one. Like, why do it? Because this is a whole can of worms you're opening, getting involved in this, and it's not something and you don't just dip in and out of it. Once you go down this
Right.
rabbit hole, you're there. So I think actually, well, because it usually takes people about 10 minutes, in one of these streams to sort of warm up. So we'll go anti-clockwise, questions a bit formally first, and then as we sort of get into it, then it can just be a bit of a free-for-all as we get into conversations. Is that all right?
Absolutely.
Just like I said, I wasn't planning to do like PowerPoints and stuff and just sit and go blah blah blah, because I bore myself, never mind anybody else. So Brianna, why do you want to be a reviewer? Why do you want to do this to yourself?
As an indie author, reviews are very important, and so it's a free way to support other indie authors, and so that is why I want to get better at reviews.
Cool. Thorin?
Yeah, it's 80% self-promotion, 20% writing. And part of self-promotion is promoting others. It's what I've seen in the writing community is sort of we all have to lift each other up, because at the end of the day, we're selling a product. It's not just that we're artists making art, but if we want to, make any money on it, we have to sell it. And review is sort of the means that we do that. So that's why I'm interested in it. But also, as you were speaking before the stream started, what do I like about this piece? Can I take that, condense it, put it in my own, something like that? I think it's just an applicable skill for a writer.
Yeah, cool. Clay?
Yeah, I do a podcast as well, and we do a debate game on there. And after we debate the movie, which we have a system where we kind of separate it from our actual opinion, then we do an open table at the end. So I'm interested in just kind of honing my reviewing skills and sharpening up that tool a little bit to sort of bring a new edge to that part of the podcast. And aside from that, what Brianna and Thorin said also applies. Like, you get asked to blurb other authors' work. I read for a couple like presses that will give me free books if I review them. And my reviews aren't like necessarily as good as I'd like them to be. So I just want to get better at it.
Ah, cool. Yeah, that's one thing. Especially, obviously, I've done quite a few interviews on this channel with independent creators, not just authors but filmmakers as well. And one thing I've noticed about writers, a lot of writers are in their own heads and are sort of in the locked up in the tower. Where I've noticed like filmmakers and game makers and other ones are a bit more. They're prepared to go out there because that's the nature of the game. It's all about the networking, and that's something authors kind of shy away from. And it's this whole self-promotion thing. It's horrendous. None of us like doing it. None of us like, look at me, I'm brilliant. So it's all about it. How do you get yourself out there on a regular basis without being a pretentious twat, essentially,
Yeah.
or just self-grandiosing all the time, and being that person that we've all seen and they're just insufferable. And yeah, a good way is it. We'll all like to talk about if we like something or we've just seen a movie or we've just read a book and it's in the zeitgeist at the moment, we all like to talk about it with our mates. So reviewing is actually just a good way of doing something that's natural. I think if you strip away the sort of formal aspect of it, so it's like I don't come into this. My particular style is I don't see it as review. I see it as I've just watched the movie and I'm talking to people about it. It's one of the reasons why I like the live stream, because then I've got the audience there that I can get some abuse about, my wrong opinions.
Sure,
directly instead of having to wait.
Right.
But it's it's just part of the conversation. Like, and we've got regular contributors to the show, they're authors, and I can never do that. I can never do that in a million years and flipping love it,
Yeah.
and I've done entire series with folks on directors and film series, and just it's fun to do if you don't see it as something you have to do it, and if you even take away that self-promotion label or that idea of it, yeah, self-promotion is a an added aspect. But if you actually remove that idea and you're doing it because you like enjoy reading, for example, and it doesn't have to be the genre you write in. That's another thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people feel they have to get pigeonholed. So it doesn't. If you might be a horror writer, but you like sci-fi or you like romance novels, you know, review them. Nothing wrong with it, and just be like, oh, by the way, I happen to also do this. It's a strange world out there. You don't know who you can get to appreciate your work if you don't try, if that makes sense. But just by doing there and being genuine.
Yeah, cast as wide a net as possible. That's
Mhm.
my approach to it.
Yeah, and one of the things like this is a horror focused channel, but doesn't mean I'm like, oh, if you're not a horror fan, you're not welcome, you know, because one of the things that I like to do here is actually challenge the stereotypes of horror fans and horror creators, because there's this whole thing about horror creators having to feeling like they have to apologize for what they are and what they enjoy. And
Yeah, I feel that writing like, oh, my aunt's gonna read this or something, you know, like.
yeah, and I'm all about breaking that stereotype. So sometimes just
That's
being
exactly.
out there and
Yeah, like Thorin said, like I also write romance, and I'm
Mhm.
always just like, okay, family, don't read this, but read my
Please,
horror work.
please.
it's also a good way as well to let people know what you're about.
Mhm.
Because you'll tend to find if you know what you like and what inspires you is what helps you create. So you're also giving the audience an idea of what you know. Okay, this is what I really enjoy, and if I'm going to create, it's going to be similar vein. If that makes sense.
I don't know what you
You
guys have found as creators.
give them a wee bit of an idea.
I don't know what you guys have found as creators, but yeah, I've been told over and over, write for yourself. Don't write with the audience in mind. I don't know if that's a smart business idea, but in terms of like being a creative and making art, is
Yeah, always be yourself. It's the same
yeah,
as being on YouTube. There's people. In fact, there's a like a big YouTuber went on last week. They're saying they had to take another break because their souls being destroyed every time the live button goes. But they're not being themselves. They're being a persona. They're being a character. And actually,
right.
that's one of the talking points about that. You know, so they're not being themselves. It's not natural. It's working, and it's the same as if you're writing. If you're not writing as yourself, then you're going to burn out.
Yeah, for sure.
And everything be honed and tweaked or whatever. But if you're not actually, if it's not your story and you're telling the story you think you want people to hear, but and reviewing's actually another way as well to find out who you are, because when you're actually looking through a critical eye a material, you're then distilling yourself what story beats, what style of stories you like, and usually 9 times out of 10, what you like is what you write.
Mm.
I don't think anybody's really read things that's completely antithetical to what they create, because that's not how we're built.
Hard to finish that book. Yeah,
Yeah.
hard to finish that book. It's a good exercise, I'd say. You know, try and read out of your circle. That's the advice I've been given. You know,
Oh
read
yeah,
every.
but it's you do get when you are reading, you'll know why you don't like something, but you tend to
Yeah.
find though that you go in line with what the sort of story beats the type of story you like. You find examples of it, and that's sort of your inspiration, and that's what you tend to gravitate towards.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, if it's something's very, for example, if it's cosmic horror, you know, if that's like Lovecraft, if that's your, you really like it, you tend to find that your writing might gear towards that. That'll be something you're drawn towards. A lot of people really love paranormal, actual investigating. So their stories will have that slant because it's an interest. You know, it's a good way of sorting yourself out. You know, aligning your own thoughts, but without having to doing it with a fun activity. You know, because you're reading things that you enjoy. You're trying different things. Like I do loads of movies I never thought I would. And that's like, why would I be watching this a million years? And like I said, people do stitch me up. Some of them are in the chat right now.
Yeah.
Go watch this, Colin. You'll really like it.
How often do you
Like-
find something you end up really liking you weren't expecting?
Yeah, that's it. Never like I'm not a massive fan of TV, but I'll still look at TV shows because there's always a chance. there's something you'll enjoy. So you don't close your mind off, but it's back to that important thing of why don't you like something? It's not that I don't like it, it's why you don't like something. And when you can articulate why you don't like something or things that you don't appreciate, that's actually worth more for yourself, because you're if you're writing a story, for example, and you're not enjoying writing it, you can, by looking at other examples and you've been a reviewer, it actually helps formulate, oh yeah, I don't like it because when I've read this before and I'm falling into the same trap.
Yeah, and it's oh, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, when I do leave reviews for other books I read, like maybe I thought it was really well written, but maybe romance-wise there was a trope that I'm just not a fan of. Like I will put that in my review. As I'm like, I'm not a huge fan of this trope. However, it was well written, and if you like that, you will probably like this. So
yeah, and that's it. And that's where you don't get it. That's where you actually step above the, oh, I didn't like this, and you're frustrated and you don't want to give the review. But when you're going, well, yeah, this particular trope, I don't appreciate it, so that's what took it away from the story. However, this and this worked, and then you get a more you find yourself getting a more balanced view, and it's good because it's. Sorry, I'm gonna have to move this. It's got warm in here.
yeah,
but yeah, that's it's a good way, and you're not just reading stories for the sake of it, just constantly consuming. You're looking at it with a different eye when you start going with the reviewers' eyes. You actually pick up things that you wouldn't be looking for if you're trying to study a book. It doesn't work.
Gotcha.
But when you're like going, I'm gonna have to tell people why I enjoyed this or why I didn't enjoy it, there's a different cog, and then subconsciously you're actually absorbing the writing styles.
Yeah, you're looking at it with a critical eye that you might not have if you were just consuming it. I feel like a lot of consumption of media can be kind of passive, but that forces sort of an active perspective on it, and you get something from it when you're giving and taking from it like that, I think.
Yeah, that's why I like reading stuff for the podcast. I mean, it's almost all I read these days because it's pretty all consuming. But you are reading it with like some questions in mind, and like when things interest you, I make sure to like write a note of them. Like, oh, I'm going to ask about that choice or that device and why that was used, and those kind of things. Yeah, like you were saying, Colin, they make you read it with a lot more intentionality, and they open your mind to a different avenue of absorbing the content. It's pretty cool.
Oh yeah, that's and as you know yourself, if you're going on and discussing something, you want to be prepared, so you're actually not stressing yourself, but you are paying that little bit more attention, which means you're getting your money's worth and your time's worth out of actually consuming material. Read it, should it be reading or watching? I mean, passively watching. There's so many things like I've revisited and I realized I didn't pay attention the first time, or there's things that people have talked about and going, have you read that? No. And then I'll go back and go, oh, bloody hell, it did. Or, have you watched that movie?
Yeah.
And then I realize, yeah, I have, because there's one particular scene jumps out at me, and I'm like, I did watch this, but obviously I was asleep because I remember none of it. And that's one thing I've found. Focus, like, it's a great way to focus, because I'm a very vocational person as opposed to the academic. So I will study something if I'm going to apply the knowledge. So if I'm going to look at something and then I'm with the purpose of making a video about it, then I'm there. If I'm just doing it, I've read this, I'm too clever, I have no interest, I just switch off. That's the way my brain works. So yeah, it's a good way to focus yourself, and then you get a better appreciation. Another big thing is it actually impacts your own creativity. This is something I didn't realize. Unless you're a complete narcissist, you are not gonna tear other people's work apart and then not expect the same to happen to yours. So a lot of people I've noticed when I've maybe speaking to new creators, that this fear of the bad review themselves. And that's something that actually puts a lot of people off. And that's one of the hurdles, this show in particular, we're trying to talk about getting over, so that people, I think everyone should at least create, if not for monetary value, there should be some sort of creativity in life, because that just makes it you're not just living an empty existence. But there's a lot of people that could be putting stories out there, won't do it because they're terrified of that internet troll or people not liking their work or getting the bad review. And when you do reviews yourself, believe it or not, you don't mind as much, because it's just part of it. Some people like your work, some won't. Some will absolutely despise it. Some will love it.
Yeah.
That's just the nature of putting something out there.
Yeah.
When you start doing this yourself, then that kind of shifts a bit. But you start critiquing yourself more, because it always turns inwards.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard not to constantly check reviews and see what people thought about it, because you put so much time and effort into something. But I really like the saying, and I don't know where it originated, but like, reviews are for readers, not for authors. And so trying not to take anything too personally, like, there are billions of people, obviously some aren't going to enjoy your work. So
Yeah, and that's like I said, once you've done 10, 20 reviews, you quickly get over that. It actually helps you, because you kind of see yourself, and like I said, when you're formulating your own thoughts, you realize as well that maybe somebody's just putting a quick review up on the likes of Amazon or Goodreads. They're not a reviewer, so it might seem like it's an attack, but they don't do it a lot. You've emotionally resonated with your work, and it's better to emotionally resonate than just be meh. That's the worst thing you can ever do, is put out meh, middling, forgettable stuff that people just go, they've forgotten about it by the time they close the last page.
Yeah,
yeah.
it'd be better to be controversial at least.
That's another wee thing. That's a bit of a tightrope to walk.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Yeah, it's it can be useful, but also it can be
Anything but
detrimental.
boredom.
Yeah, that's it. It was actually Alfred Hitchcock said he'd rather the audience be confused than bored. That's the worst thing you can be, is boring, and just not getting any resonance. So one thing about reviews is, if somebody's actually taken their time to write one, you've reached them, positively or negatively, but also their review mightn't be a professional one. It's just not just the customer, but a customer's perspective. And I think that's another thing writers forget about too. Everyone comes at it from the writer's perspective and talk about, technicality and, writing style and that. But one thing I've found reviewing does is actually reinforces what I like as a fan. And then it makes me think about fans as opposed to peers. Another sort of pitfall, I'm saying more, but look at Hollywood. That's another one that falls into the trap of making stuff for their peers as opposed to fans, and that's why there's so much antagonism. You see it in the writing community as well. A lot of writers are writing for other writers and not just readers, because it's it becomes that sort of circle where that's where indie writing can get a bit of a bad rep, because it seems to be a wee bit pretentious. It comes across that way, not saying it is, but it can come across that way, because everyone's writing for their peers and forgetting about the actual fan base. Reviewing something as a fan, just as a reader, or if it's movies or if it's games, just as your experience of it, and not just turn it apart technically, it's a good exercise, because it reminds you of who the actual customers are.
Yeah.
So another thing I just want to talk about is choosing the right format, because I'm sure you're aware it's how long is a piece of string when it comes to this. There's so many platforms and formats and styles, and
Yeah.
I suppose the question is, where do you begin?
Yeah.
I think that's a massive hurdle to get over.
Well, where do you guys consume your reviews? Do you go to videos? Do you go to blog posts? Or
Personally, I'm a YouTube. I've been a YouTube fan before I became a YouTuber. That's my go-to. I like long form content, so the likes of TikTok wouldn't do me, where everything's condensed into a minute or 5 minutes. That's not what I am. It might be an age thing, I don't know, but I prefer a bit of a discussion and go in depth, not necessarily about still waters, but wee bit of a discussion about the material. That's where my first one is. I've never been a massive blog fan. Just not. I think likes of Facebook, I think, put me off that because why people used to put absolute every post was a diatribe of some sort.
Everybody's got a soapbox.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
just in Facebook in particular, just from years ago, every post was, rant, and it was every day, every other day, either the same person or small groups of people just constantly putting out, and it's like it's just exhausting. Not even reading it, but just exhausting to know it's there, and that's somebody's entire life, and it kind of put me off reading blogs because it just harkens my mind back to that. I don't know whether I've got really good with the block button, but it's not a big factor in my life now. Or just choosing circles is better. But back 10 years ago, it was just constant on that particular platform. On the other hand, the likes of X, where everything's condensed into like about a paragraph, is horrible too.
It was good or it was bad.
Yeah, and you get no nuance or whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
And then if I'm looking for particular story beats, then I'm not going to get an idea of whether I should watch something or not. But for some reason, at least with the video, like, my thing's video, I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but if I get to know a reviewer, even if I don't agree with them, sometimes I'll watch a reviewer that if they like a movie, I'm not going to. Or if they like a book, there's 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to. If they don't like something, there's a good chance I will. So that review to me is just as valuable. And it's actually you actually get to know the person making the video because you get their expressions and when they're not enjoying something or doing it. Where a blog, you don't really get that.
Yeah,
It's hard to get that sort of nuance.
I see. You're sort of seeing it through the filter of their personality. It's like a interpersonal touch in it.
And that's it's the thing. It's the body language. I mean, it's not the words you're saying. Sometimes the body language gives you an idea of, all right, okay, they're really hating this, and if I happen to agree with most of them, all right, okay, I'm not going to watch it. Or if it's something I know that they'll like, I won't. Okay, they're really loving this. It has all the things I won't like. I'll give that one a miss, and vice versa. You know what I mean? It's just as valuable. But that's just my preference. People don't like there's people that don't like watching videos. So, and that's fair enough. Like I said, there's no right or wrong with us. That's I think people need to understand too, especially today where everything seems to be binary. Everything's distilled into not zeros and ones, which is it's not fun at all.
You're in the group where you're against me, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and that's that just gives me a headache.
I've seen some really great analysis on YouTube. I've watched a lot learned a lot from just creators reviewing things. They'll bring up things I wouldn't have noticed myself reading it, consuming the media, something like that.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's something, never thought of that. And that's fantastic. Because at the end of the day, we're all individuals and we'll pick up on things that other people won't. They'll pick up on things we won't. And that's why variety is the spice of life, as they say. But for yourselves, that's have you had a thought about what your preferred format is for reviewing? Have you thought about that in any capacity?
For me, I probably like I want to create like a template that I can just plug and play everything I do. I like to have that in place for things like reviews. That for me, they're kind of like my podcast for me. I'm not a big social media person. I don't really like to hang out on social media for fun. So I'm trying to find alternative ways to do social media, like a podcast where I actually talk to people, and reviews where I can actively support my fellow writers and kind of be out there, but I'm not just like, look at my book all the time.
Oh yeah, because that's not fun.
No, it's not. So I think I'd like to streamline it, but I also thought about video because I do like podcasts. I like talking. And when it comes to those kind of things, that's a little easier for me than writing it down sometimes. So it might be something good to consider.
Yeah, also as well, it's if your medium that you create's writing, maybe you don't want to write more
Yeah.
because then it
Extra work.
becomes, I mean, it feels like work.
Mm-hmm.
And this should not, yes, there is work involved, but it shouldn't feel like a job. If it feels like a job doing this, you've picked the wrong format or you've picked the wrong style.
You're
And
gonna
that's
burn out.
you're going to burn out. That's it, and you're just going to go, "Why am I doing this? This is a hassle." If you're getting to the stage where, oh god, I've got to read this book to review, and sorry, can I go ahead now?
Oh yeah, and I wanted to ask you specific to that. Have you found, so you obviously like the live stream format, and I've been thinking more and more about doing that because the negative thing to videos for me is like the editing and the back end work. How much of that is cut out by the live stream thing? Is that
100%.
pretty awesome?
What we're doing now is straight out there at the moment.
Yeah, so you don't really have to worry about
reviews are written. A lot of nuances gaze from visual communication. Yep, that's it. It's and I like that too. And the interaction as well. That's something you don't get with pre-recorded, because there's loads of reviewers out there that do the pre-recorded and they do the voiceover with the images. That seems to be a particular popular style.
Yeah.
Like a documentary.
Yeah. If I was to do that for every movie I watched, that once again, to me that would feel like work.
Mm-hmm.
Where with the live streaming, I like, my style is I've just watched a movie, want to talk to my mates, like you go into work, I want to here, you won't believe what I just watched. So I try to watch the movie as close to the live stream as possible. So I'm like coming on fresh.
Yeah.
I don't do notes. I might pull up the Wikipedia page because I'm terrible for people's names. So I'll list the have the IMDb page, so at least I can refresh my mind with the actors, but I don't do like a script. And I kind of wing it. And then if there's people in the live chat, we'll have, if they've seen it before, then we'll have that discussion, and it's that sort of vibe I try to bring across when I'm doing reviews. I just find it works for me and I enjoy it. So I can do a lot more videos because it doesn't feel like then, oh god, I've just watched this. Now I have to spend 2 hours writing a script. Now I've got to make the video. Now I've got to edit the video.
Gotcha.
Like I do a weekly newsletter, and I do have an exclusive video for those that are signed up the email list. And doing that once a week, even then, I record about 30 minutes and then I try to chop it down to about 10. And that is just, once you're doing it
again.
If I was having to do that 2-3 times a week, I'd be burnt out,
Yeah.
But that's it, and other people mightn't be comfortable going live. And I know people won't come on and talk on the show because the idea of this and being out there like live straight away is a bit much. So there's folks that won't do this, and that's perfectly fine too.
Especially in the author community, like you were saying. I've even had lots of authors that I've worked with that don't even want to do a pre-recorded. Like if there's video, they don't want anything to do with it. And like, no shame or anything. That's just the difference you have to consider, I guess.
And then if that's something you're not comfortable with, that's where the blogging comes in, or that's where do you do a structured review? So maybe have the same review and then you post it in Goodreads and Amazon and do your blog. That's an option too. Where to me, that's not what I want to do myself. That's not my style. And that's fine. Once again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just understanding the options and understanding yourself.
Yeah.
And when you get those two things correct, it's not work then. Because you're doing something you're comfortable doing. You're doing it because you enjoy it. And then the rest of the stuff that we've talked about, having that online presence, but you're not constantly selling yourself. You're giving support without being really cheesy about it. Oh, look at this person. And those posts are horrible too. One thing I noticed about the booktuber community, which I find really frustrating, whoever's flavor of the month. Oh, this is the person we're all a fan of right now, and everyone's like a robot. I don't know if you've noticed that.
This one will get me clicks. Yeah.
This is, and everyone, and they all say the same thing, and you're like, that's not a review. That's just,
That's what a few years ago, I got really into Bookstagram, which is a whole
Mhm.
thing on Instagram, and it just got too repetitive. It was, there were a handful of reviewers that I really liked hearing their opinions, but then it got so weighed down with everyone happened to be reading the same book this month, and that's what everyone's talking about, and it was just the same paragraph, slightly different word choice, but like across the whole thing, and I was just like,
At what point does it go from giving meaningful input about a book or something to just being about being seen? You know?
yeah.
Yeah, and that's something you have to. That's all in yourself. That's your own integrity. That's your own
Mhm.
reasons for doing it. And do you know what? There's absolutely nothing wrong with saying I'm doing this to get myself seen, because that's not, you're not wrong in doing that. Once again, they're just apologizing for wanting that, but it's nothing wrong with it
Yeah.
because it's the name of the game. You have to promote. If you want to get your, get your work out there, people, you have to tell people it's there. You have to tell people you exist
Right.
without beating them over the head, because that's the thing with any independent creator's afraid of, is beating people over the head. Look at me, I'm brilliant.
Well, and that's
Like that.
something. Sorry to interrupt you, Colin.
No.
That's something that I think is really cool about reviewing, because it allows you to get that exposure, but you also are pointing at other people instead of at yourself. And then you're being an active contributor to the writing community, which
Yeah,
is
and
what
you're
they all tell you to do.
yeah,
Right.
and you're doing it with your own voice, and you're not just copying and
Yeah.
pasting.
Yeah, like you said, being genuine. I mean, just like in your writing, there's nothing more important than that the story matters to you and that you're really like putting your heart into it and that you care about it. You're being genuine. I don't think there's anything more important. So probably translates directly to this.
Oh yeah.
Sounds like.
Actually, that's one of my later points, Chris just asked there. There's a prevailing trend that negative reviews get more attention. How does the panel feel about that? Yeah, because there's one of my points I'm saying, we've sort of mentioned with the Bookstagram and the book, it's the same thing, just different platforms, but
Mhm.
there's a tightrope between, or a balancing act between being a shill and being an edgelord.
Yeah.
Because you'll always get that one edgelord.
Can you
everyone,
please define those two terms for us? So that we
right?
understand?
So a shill is someone who is essentially paid by the corporation, or they're jumping on a trend to be popular. They don't actually have a genuine opinion, and they're always pumping up whatever it is.
Mhm.
So they're looking. Access media are the biggest culprits for it, because they want the freebies. So maybe somebody wants the free book, or they want the mention. So they're always shilling. So everything's brilliant, everything's fantastic. If you don't like it, you're the problem.
Yeah.
The other end of the spectrum is the edgelord. So if people like something, I hated that. That was terrible. That's the worst thing ever because I'm so edgy. Look at me.
Right.
And they're both just as toxic.
Yeah.
And they're both each side of the coin. And that's something you gotta be aware of. Okay, am I getting into this? Am I am I getting into this territory? Am I getting into that territory? And it's back to being that genuine person, and that's a lot of self-reflection, which as a creator you need to have.
Yeah. And I mean, at least whenever I see like negative reviews that get a lot of attention, because they show up on your feed or whatever, I'm like, okay, but what do other people have to say about it? And I'll go and actually, if I'm like, oh, I think I've heard about that book, like I'll go and actually look on the page and see, are all the reviews terrible? Is it just one person that had a really loud voice and platform, and that's why it's getting attention? So I don't know. I don't just follow the one negative review, but unfortunately, it does happen. Like they'll gain traction, and then that's kind of, all
Like
that
you see it
people
all the
talk
time,
about.
and
Yeah.
that's a sad, because we have talked about this when we had our interview. Marketing departments, they actually capitalize on that. They will stir shit basically because
Yeah.
it gets clicked.
Yep.
And it's horrible because it's actually look at the long-term effect. When did we talk around?
Oh my, yeah, like last year.
Yeah.
For
In a
sure.
year's time, look what's happened. to a lot of the creative industries that have used that tactic, they're tanking. Because
Right.
people are just walking around going, I can't be bothered anymore. This is not fun.
Yeah.
I don't realize by liking a movie, not liking a movie, liking a book, not liking a book, I'm getting into a bloody war. That's not what entertainment's for.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's, we're now seeing it. Nobody's going to the cinema. They're burnt out. Nobody's watching any movies because they're burnt out. It's the same as well. Indie publishers, people are like walking away because they've seen a lot of that stuff going on, and they're like, I don't want to get involved. I just wanted to pick up a book and bloody read it, man.
Yeah.
That's your paying customer.
Mhm.
And this is what I'm saying, where people were creating for their peers and not for their customers.
Yeah.
Right.
That's a good point.
And I think reviewing it really does bring that to the fore. To me, it's really helped focus me and think about customer. Right, I'm a customer. What do I like? Okay, so if somebody's reading my stuff, what are they going to like? What are they expecting?
Yeah.
Okay, what mistakes? I'm seeing mistakes here. How do I not make those myself?
Mhm.
Gotcha.
And it's a really useful tool without studying something. I think that even that word study, automatically generates stress because it's just that word. But if you're reviewing, if you're just doing something naturally, that happens, and you don't realize you're doing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
you're just actively enjoying it, right?
Yeah, but in the background, you're picking all this stuff up because we're all creatures of patterns, but we'll generate patterns. Patterns repeat, behavior repeats. Styles repeat. That's okay because it's what you do and add your own little spice, make your own little flavor is what gives you your voice. I suppose the other thing is then question it's one of the questions I ask myself because there's an absolute plethora of reviewers out there. Like, it's tons of them.
Yeah.
So what do you bring to the table?
Mhm.
And that's not an easy question to ask or answer. Have you ever thought about that before starting? Like, what do you bring to the table that isn't a copy and paste? Like I said, but we know the copy and paste reviews. We
Mhm.
know the shells. We know the Ezos are just doing it for attention. It screams at you. What do you think you have, or have you an idea of what you're going to do to make yourself unique, that you kind of stand out a bit?
Oh, that's a business plan right there.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. It is.
Yeah.
You don't do this to fail. You know what I mean? And you're not
Yeah.
going to invest time and effort into something to do it badly. I think, or to do it half cocked. You know what I mean? I
Mhm.
think we've all got that in the back of our head. So questions of that, I think,
Yeah.
because
And see, for me, I was like, I just want to get better at reviewing and more consistent with it, because a lot of the times when I go to look at reviews for books, it's a paragraph that summarizes the book and there's no feelings,
Mhm.
and I'm like, that's not what I want out of a review. And so leaving reviews sort of what I would want from looking into
Okay,
that
so
book.
how are you going to bring feeling to your reviews?
Just honest. This is how it made. I really didn't like this character, or the dialogue was off, or
Mhm.
and not incorporating the plot.
Yeah.
But
So things I'm always like anybody
yeah.
that sees my reviews knows a pattern. Storytelling, characterization are my two main things. And if a story doesn't have that, I don't like it. And it doesn't matter about like the effects, for example, become secondary, and even in the book, like one I did a review of on another channel was June Messiah, and I remember watching that or reading that as a kid, but then I had read it as part of the whole, I just binged the whole series. But taking that book as a standalone, actually reading it again years later, really sullied it because there's a lot of half-baked ideas there. It's the idea of the universe that, had got me enthralled, but you don't really get that pen out to about 4 books later. But that book in itself, the characters, like character Paul Muad'Dib, he was actually like a side character in his own story. And it's only with that, I haven't done many hundreds of, I don't know how many hundreds of reviews I've done now. I've lost count. But reading that again with that mind, I didn't enjoy it as much as a standalone. But then I was able to pick apart and go why I didn't enjoy it. And even I was having a discussion with my mate, and even during the course of the discussion, my opinion changed again. As we discussed it, and I realized actually, no, this isn't as good. I'm using nostalgia from reading it from a time ago to give it a higher score, and then I actually dropped the score during the review. As we discussed and thought about it, that's because the characterization wasn't there and the story was only half told. The world building, Frank Herbert's amazing, and the ideas he puts forward, but he never follows through and explores them.
Messiah, that was really sort of a transitional piece.
Yeah, it was just it's just a novella, but it didn't have the it should have been a full novel, because when it jumps into Children of June, it's 11 years after that. So you're like, what are you doing? So it's like he's rushed to get to a certain point, and it really tells. And like I said, with what things I'm looking for in a review, characterization, storytelling, it wasn't there. And why would you put out a single piece like that if those elements are there, even if it's part of it? You can't have the audience rely on, oh, that's okay, this will be explained in 4 books' time, or I'll finish that off. No, this is the book I'm reading now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
it seems like he was really trying to get somewhere else. Like, I have to tell this in the meantime in order to get to the story I really want to tell. Where in the meantime, you should be telling the story you really want to tell.
Yeah, and that's the feeling you got from it, and that's I was able to articulate that better because I felt the frustration. I remember even back in the day, because reading the whole series, there was a frustration. I was a lot younger. I wasn't reviewing, and I couldn't put it into words. Now, when I revisit that, I'm understanding why, but I didn't hate the book because I see the potential there.
Gotcha.
For the whole story, and that's one thing reviewing's done for me. And one thing that consistency of when I'm reviewing things, people know what they're going to get, the things I'm looking for. So that's something I feel I bring to the table. If that helps you maybe think about it that way.
Yeah, I think something that I think I am able to bring and would like to bring more thoroughly is like you're saying, Colin, that ability to appreciate the book even if you don't necessarily like it, because I think it's important to get across, and I would like to do this in a conversational sort of across the table tone like you do. But that idea that you can appreciate something without necessarily it being your speed or you liking it, because I think a review really should let people know what they can expect from the story more than just oh, I like this, I didn't like this. I would like to bring a little more depth to it. Like with our podcast, we roll a dice, and the high roll defends, low roll attacks, no matter what we actually think. So everything we read or watch for it, I have to be thinking about, what if I roll low and what if I roll high? So I'm always looking for things I like.
That's a brilliant concept.
That's smart. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so there's something brand new. That is something actually I haven't seen before myself. So there you go. There's something brand new. Oh, right. Okay. So today I'm going to really enjoy this. Or no, sorry, I'm not. I hate this.
Exactly.
Yeah. What do you use? A D20 or a D6?
D20.
D20, of course.
Yeah, of course. But yeah, it makes for an interesting watch or an interesting read, right? Because you might just be blown away by something, and then you roll a 2, and you're like, well, I should
have a good time.
Don't like it today.
Time to grill it.
Yeah, pros, cons. I'm gonna have to base a whole argument on this one point that I didn't like, But I would like to bring that to individual reviews too, and find a way to sort of reflect what was good, what was bad, or what can be expected, regardless of how I felt about it.
So if you're writing a blog, you could nearly have your dice. Okay, I rolled a 3. Boom, 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 boom. Okay, second part, I rolled a 3 again, or 5. whatever it is. You could build that into a written review.
Yeah, roll like a D10, right? And then it's the 1 through 10 scale.
Yeah.
Yeah, here's how I'm going to review this, as if I think it's a 4. That would be interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so there you go. That's
Yeah.
but you can play with that though, because even if you really like something, so you got me thinking that. You know what I mean, you could really play that. Okay, yeah, you really like this thing, but if I really hated it, I hate the way that character is so bloody perfect and annoyingly good, and you could twist the hatred of it, actually into a positive review. And there's something you could build, because that's your pattern. Then nobody else has that, and you build that into your own thing, and then people go, "Oh God, what's he?" And then people that maybe send you stuff for review, like, "Oh, what are you going to roll the dice?" And you tell them first, or you roll the dice with them. Okay, your story's going to get a 2, right? Stand by, and then when the review comes out,
that's a good idea. Yeah, do it
yeah,
ahead of
and
time. That's
live
funny.
roll the dice. Go on live and just roll the dice. Okay, I will be reviewing this in the next 2 weeks, and it's going to be getting a clunk 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 on or use a virtual tabletop. Let people see the dice.
Yeah,
It's going to be getting a 2-star review. Here's why.
You put a camera on the die.
Sorry.
Yeah, well,
You put a camera on the die so people can see it.
You can.
Oh yeah.
You can have a second camera on the dice, or there's a thing called virtual tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
So you can actually have people. There's a lot of TTRPG content on this channel as well. So yep.
Love it.
Excellent. I've got my dice near me too.
I think I just found it. Thanks, Colin. I'm going to leave now, and I think I'm done.
Yeah, you just
got all the
graduated.
What's the stream going to get as a review?
Roll it for us. Let's see what we get.
Let's see.
All
Let's
right.
get it. What we get?
17.
That's
Oh,
not bad.
that's good.
Not
Right. Now you got to tell loads of lies.
Yeah. It's okay. I'm good at it.
Flex your charisma skill for
But
us.
you can bring a bit of sarcasm and have fun with it. That's what I mean.
Yeah, I
This
twist
doesn't have to
everything
be
I
a
didn't
chore.
like into a thing I did like, and just like you were just saying. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
and just have fun with it, and people know
Yeah.
that that's what you're doing. In fact, that's better. If it was Cthulhu, Call Cthulhu would be a terrible dice roll, but I'm legendary for my dice rolls. They're awful. Honestly, the disasters I've had. But yeah, that's a thing. Yeah, there you go. There you've got a concept there. You just put that in just find a way to make that in the review. Have fun with it. There you go. Nobody else is doing that. Not that I am aware of. Sweet.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah. What are you thinking, Thorn?
Shoot, I'm here to learn.
Are you going to flip a coin?
I'm going to flip a coin. Yeah. I'll use a D100, a bigger dice. How to be unique, how to stand out. I don't know. I mean, we were sort of touching on this earlier, but just being moved by the work, and maybe omit reviews where it didn't move me, something like that. But how to stand out in a crowd, I'm not sure. I can't top the dice idea. It's pretty great. I like see, you like long form content. I have the attention span of a goldfish. I like I'll shoot for something medium, probably something medium length and written, because that's sort of what I'd like to consume. How do I stand out with that? I'm not sure yet, but
so it'd have to be bullet points, wouldn't it?
Bullet points? I don't know. Maybe a very brief essay.
Well, first of all, what's your medium? What are you thinking medium wise?
I write.
You write. So are you thinking written reviews?
Yeah, written reviews.
Okay, so
maybe even something to squeeze on a Goodreads page or Amazon, something like that. That's what I assume that most authors are asking for. Hey, review me here, please review me here. I assume that probably is like one of the
once
best.
Again, that's a bit short sighted of a lot of authors, because they think there's only the one approved route to get seen.
Sure, yeah.
And once again, because it's all the whole peer review thing, isn't it? And everyone expects. Let's be honest, how many people use Goodreads these days? Is it as big a platform as people think, or is it all creators? We don't really know. Exactly, but don't really know. But people think it's ingrained. That's the only way, or the Amazon review is the only way. But
as far as Amazon reviews, sorry, Colin, but once you hit a certain number, Amazon then promotes your book on
Yep.
the back end. So I know for a lot of authors, like that is one reason they push being like, hey, leave me a review on Amazon. It's because once they hit a threshold, then they get like extra from
Mhm.
Amazon promotional wise. But like
But
you
you're
said,
also
it's not
stuck in a
the
certain
only
format
place.
with Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you just want to do 3 or 4 bullet points, Amazon doesn't like that. Plus, it makes you give it a star review, and if you give a 1-star review, they will call you a bigot and a horrible person and ban. They really don't like 1-star reviews.
They're also cutting out if you say you got it for free.
Yeah, so you're
they'll delete
stuck.
your review. So any ARC reader you have, like those are all gonna get deleted at some
Yeah,
point.
they don't like it. So but what I'm saying is that's not the only avenue, and it's a matter of if you do a review and the author gets eyes on, and then they get their book, it's doing the same job. So it's just a matter of don't worry about. Once again, do it for yourself. Don't worry about that. If you want to do it Amazon review style, fine. You know, I mean, if that's your thing, crack on. But what I'm saying here is, it isn't just the one way, and you don't have to just. This is where we're getting away from the copy and paste aspect.
Yeah.
And how do you have a unique voice? Because if we're just, if we're just going to do a copy and paste review, what's the point of any of this?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Amazon, I think, is important for the author because of what Rihanna was saying, and it, like it or not, it's where people are going to buy your book. Like if you sell it there, it's where they're going to buy it.
Oh yeah, but that's But you can point people that direction.
That's true. That's true.
So you shouldn't be. All I'm saying is don't shackle yourself to that, because that's you're tying yourself up, and you can't roll dice on Amazon. It'll be the same, but don't shackle yourself as a reviewer. Think about what you're going to enjoy doing, because trust me, see the amount of stuff I bat off because I don't have time. Review this for me, review that for me, and I'm like, God, I'm scheduled a month and a half ahead at all times, so I don't always, I have to say no at times. If I'm having to then do it through a particular format and it's work, and then once again there's the burnout. You gotta make it fun for yourself. You gotta make it enjoyable, or else you're not going to give good reviews and honest reviews. If you're feeling like you're constrained in a certain pigeonhole of it must be the Amazon review, it must be the Goodreads review, do it as well if you've got time. But if you're building a particular style and a flavor, then it mightn't fit into that.
Yeah,
you might be able to copy and paste it into it afterwards. But once again, if you're not doing it for yourself and you don't have your own voice, what's going to make you stand out as a reviewer? And there's a bit of a responsibility as a reviewer as well, because if people do start following you, it's your opinion then begins to matter.
Yeah.
And that's something you got to consider as well, because that is a massive responsibility. If you're just copying and pasting or just doing what people think and sort of doing a half-baked, you're not doing the people that come to you a service. And then you're also doing, because don't forget, you're representing your own work too.
Right.
You're representing yourself as a writer, and this is just a way, another way of promoting without, like I said, hitting people over the head. So you gotta think of your integrity.
Right.
Well, I guess from the reviewer's perspective, what I was kind of getting to with the Amazon thing is, I wonder if you can, how much is it okay to just do copy and paste, obviously like with your voice, but like maybe just a snippet of the review and then throw a link in, say, if you do this live stream, that's like, watch my full review here. Here's just a really quick blurb of what I say in my review. But like that way, the author still gets that Amazon and Goodreads thing that their publisher wants them to do, because, like you said, locked into that.
I do that as well. I'm on the Slasher app, which is an app for horror fans. So if someone's talking about a movie, I'll go, yes, I really like that, and it'll just be a sentence, and then I'll put the link to my full review.
Yeah, okay,
so they can go and see it, but it's only like a sentence, but it's not really. I'm not transcribing my entire,
Yeah.
Grab him with a hook.
Yeah. So yeah, that's perfectly legit. What I think the point I'm trying to make is you have your style, and that's your central place. You can copy and paste that.
Yeah. Okay.
What I mean by the copy and
Yeah.
paste is you're not just, this is a really great book, such a fantastic author, buy
Right.
this, which is like every other bloody review ever.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? You get 100 of those, but
Yeah.
you want to stand out, because then you have to build your own brand too. Because if you don't have a good brand, what's the point in reviewing somebody else? You have to have people respect your opinion, and that's where it all comes together. If that makes sense.
Right, it does. Which is why
Yeah.
authors like go out and seek other authors to promote their book for the back of their book, right? So, like, because they know those authors are already respected. So, I guess it's important as a reviewer to build a reputation for the same reason.
Yeah, but then you have to build it with a customer, because that's what I'm saying. That there's a trap of
Yeah.
writing for your peers, promoting for your peers as opposed to your customers, and that's just look at Hollywood. They got on that trap. Look at them now. A lot of those companies are in trouble. It's all come full circle, because when the customer doesn't feel like it's for them, and that's been a problem I've noticed. Like, I've been doing this a few years now, and Brianna can tell it, had loads of conversations, and I don't come from a position of don't do this. It's like, yes, do it more. That's my whole attitude. But I've seen it where it can be off-putting once you have that sort of, you open your eyes and you see the patterns. With indie publishing in particular, a lot of people are doing it for their peers, and it seems very closed off, that it's not accessible unless you can't even talk to them unless you're another author, because the author won't speak to you. And it mightn't be true, but when the perception's out there and that's what people think, that's a hard thing to get over.
So, can I ask you, Colin, how do you differentiate, or how do you know to differentiate between doing it for your peers, doing it for a customer, from your perspective as a pretty much a sole reviewer? Since you work with so many authors, at what point do we become your peers? And how do you keep it so that you're friendly to your customers?
So I switch it up. I don't review a lot of books.
Okay.
Believe it or not, I'll interview a lot of authors, but I don't review a lot of books. So that's one thing I'll bat off. A lot of people, can you review this? Can you review this? And I'm like, sorry, I don't have time, because that's not my channel. That's why my channel does movies mainly, and games, and sometimes books, because everyone likes to watch a movie. And then when I invite authors on, I invite them on to review a movie, because it's a common ground. So you're talking to customers as in, oh, right, I like that movie. Oh, by the way, it happens to write book. And ask Steve and Dale, they're always on. They'll mention their books. Oh, by the way, my new book's coming out just on the stream, and then I'll bung it in the newsletter as well. Oh, by the way, here's what contributors. And I work with about 70, 80 authors at this point through the Horrific Tales segment and all. I have different things that I do narrated fiction. So it'll be a narrated piece from a segment of a book rather than doing a formal review. So that's a different method I use. But yeah, just not reviewing books and getting into that trap. That's why I go the other way. Or let's jump on and play a stupid game, a side scroller game just for a bit of a laugh. People are seeing your personality then, and then that's breaking that cycle.
That makes sense.
Yeah, I don't think when I was on with you, we talked about my stuff at all.
It was there, but it was, let's get to know Brianna.
Right. Yeah,
because
which
how many
I
of
love.
those formulaic interviews are there? Tell me about your work. What have you got out now? What is good about your latest work?
Yeah.
I am selling
what got
this.
you into writing? What?
Yeah.
Yeah, I really enjoy doing stuff where maybe it's at the very end where the person interviewing you is like, oh yeah, like you actually write stuff. What do you have coming out? And then that's when you talk.
Absolutely. And you do have the links in the description and everything else. I mean, that's way. So it's.
But I love watching other authors, like not even bring up books or anything. Like it is just seeing their personality and everything. And then I'm like, oh, I enjoy this person. What do they actually do?
Yeah. And like I said, when I've got, a regular Dale, Steve Knight, Dale Gibson, two writers, they're on quite a lot. Dale and I are working through the Peter Jackson filmography at the moment, so we're nearly at the end of that. We've been how long have we been doing that? About 6 months, starting from Bad Taste right up to now we're at The Hobbit, But yeah, everyone knows she's a writer. But that's not what we're there talking about. We're talking about these movies, and God, we've done. In fact, one of my favorite episodes of reviewing a movie was Killer Sofa, which was an absolutely cheesy, horrendous New Zealand flick, and we just ripped the bag out of it. And I mean, we were just in stitch. It was one of those so bad it was funny sort of movies.
Gotcha.
But that's
Those could be
where
fun. Yeah.
we're having fun. It's a chat. It's like two people were sitting having a coffee together or having a beer, like, look at the state of that, and just happen to do it on stream. That's kind of the vibe of this channel. And we'll go off. You pick 100 tangents and we'll go off on it. Oh, and we have got Joseph. Welcome.
Joseph.
Made it just in time, it seems.
Excellent. We'll get on. But yeah, that's one thing we'll do is bring an author. But we're talking about movies, so we're not getting to that cycle looking around, and it's just all about that self promotion, and then it's not formulaic. Yeah. So welcome, Joseph. So this is not a PowerPoint presentation where I'm boring everybody to death. It's just a bit of a round table. We're just talking about different aspects of reviewing. We've at the moment we've got to sort of what format we're using, how to make your own style, how not to get into sort of traps and so forth. Have you done any reviews yourself, or is this something you're just thinking about starting?
I've never really done any reviews on myself, anything like that. No.
All right, cool. So just pretty much like everyone else, just it's an idea, it's a concept.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I'm just talking about you, Dale. Welcome.
He's completely neglecting the fact that he has a horror movie podcast that's really hilarious and basically talks about horror movies on there and for all intents and purposes reviews them. But
it's really good.
Whatever. It's really good.
I was like, everyone else has all these cool podcast things, but
those are completely unhinged discussions. Those are not reviews.
They're the best type.
No, that's what we've been railing about, Joe.
Yeah,
that's a lot of fun because I see the cool thing about yours is that Jimmy's on there and he's new. You're bringing someone completely new to horror in. So we've got the veteran and we've got the absolute beginner there, and that concept is sort of what we were getting at. Like, how do you stand out from the crowd, right?
A review to me seems like it would be like a productive conversation on if this movie or piece of media
this channel
enjoyable. Not just like, yeah, this was cool, but it reminds me of this other thing I saw once, like 20 years ago, and then go on from there.
Water cooler talk. That's the best stuff.
Yeah.
That's the sort of vibe that's maybe people don't like that and they want the more formalized. That's what I'm saying. There's no right answer, but you got to find what works for you and just your little bit that makes it stand out. So, Joseph, are you a writer as well? I take it, are you part of the...
Correct. I also am co-chair for the HWA Seattle here, which I also mentioned.
All right, so part of that, all the funny handshakes, that's...
Anna, did you tell him about the handshake? You're just not supposed to tell him about the handshake.
I just assumed there'd be a funny handshake. What sort of group are you if you don't have funny handshakes?
Oh, the one with the goat? Yeah.
We don't have one.
Yet.
Oh dear. So yeah, that's it's just a thing to consider. How do you make this your own? Because when it's your own, then you want to do it. You're energized. If you're just doing what you think other people want, you're gonna burn yourself out. Even the thought of having to do that. If I was starting this from scratch and I was just like, oh, what do I do to keep other people? I wouldn't do it. I'm too stubborn for a start. Oh, there's Joseph. Do you find you have to contain your writing due to being part of the Horror Writers Association?
No, I have the opposite.
Dale, are you talking about sensitivity? Yeah, there's we had a topical discussion about sensitivity and horror. That
Oh.
there's been certain elements, and maybe not necessarily this chapter, because I think each chapter is independent. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's the Horror Writers Association and then all the different chapters in
Yeah.
localized areas. So like we're Seattle, but we have people 2 hours away.
Yeah. Just there's been people, and they've come under the Horror Writers Association badge, that have decided that we must take out all the scary words out of horror because people might get frightened.
No.
So using words like madness, which is apparently, all
Oh.
this kind of stuff, and it's like, what are you doing? That's the whole point of horror. Is we had a whole discussion about it anyway,
Oh, yeah.
because it set me off on one, because I'm like, what the hell? If you don't
Yeah.
like horror and what it's about, then guess what? There's 100 other genres out there. Crack on.
Mhm. Yeah.
The
We
clue's
don't.
in the name.
Yeah, our chapter doesn't limit anybody, or as long as you are a member of the HWA and want to join our writing group, then you are a part of our group. Because we
Yeah,
have a
that's
wide variety of writers. So even just Joseph, myself, and Clay, like we write completely different things to varying degrees of sensitivity as well.
oh yeah, and that's
So
that's it. And it's and once again, here's another tangent. Thanks, Dale. We're off on another one. Is that something you bring into reviews? Actually, some people that might be a focus. How the sensitivity rating, or I always compare horror to pool. You've got the baby pool, you've got the shallow end, you've got the deep end, you've got the diving pool.
I like that. I
So
hadn't thought about it that way.
you can do that. You can swim out as much as you want until you get comfortable, or
Mhm.
stay close to the edge. There's no hard and fast rule. What I don't like is people trying to restrict it. Yeah, you can be respectful of folks, but when they start imposing their ideas that it's actually ruining the genre, then I have no time for that.
It's also the opposite of respect, by the way. To try to restrict other people's creativity based on your own idea of what is acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. It's wrong.
It's like
'Cause
with trigger warnings. Like I don't need trigger warnings, but when I see them in a book, like I'm like, oh, cool, that's nice. They don't bother me. Like I'm fine with that. If a book if the author or the publisher feels the need to include trigger warnings, like good for them. That's great.
As
I
long
wrote
as
a
it's not
piece.
enforced.
Right. Yeah. Like if it's just like hey, if this sort of thing bothers you, it's in the
Yeah.
book.
Yeah, because but like I said, we'll have that whole discussion. Should books have age ratings, like a movie and stuff? But yeah, like I said, we went through all that there, and just the ifs about not trying to. Once again, with the sort of discussions I have, it's not about this is the way. Let's have the discussion. Let's think about it. Let people make up their own mind. That's something you can. But once again, that's something you can bring in. Was it extreme? Was it not? Oh, flip, that makes me laugh when the current thing at the moment is extreme horror. I'm instantly just going to go because usually it's not. Usually it's just a shock jock trying to just get attention. Like I said, back to what we're talking about, the edgelord sort of end of the spectrum as opposed to the chill. It's I write extreme horror, and then you're like, okay, right now you've set expectations.
Yeah.
I like to think of books like that as a contest, where if I close the book and can't do it anymore, then the book is won, and I can't let a book get a win over me.
Yeah, is that because it's not a good story and you're struggling to read it, or is it because of the graphic content? What does it makes you would stop
It is
reading?
mainly because of the graphic content. There's a lot of the extreme horror. I don't want to say minimal on story, because there is a few that I can think of that actually do tell pretty decent-ish stories, right? But it is always kind of like it feels like the community of that people are always trying to one up each other in terms of gross out.
Yeah, and then that could be a focus. Like I said, that's how you bring your own flavor. Like, well, you're trying to gross out, but you're failing because you've left all this stuff behind. And that could be, what's the gross factor? And that could be something you do, package it your way that you don't see other people talking about. Are there, I suppose that's a question to ask. When you see reviews or you read or watch, whatever way you take them, do you ever think to yourself, I wish they would talk about this? And what is that maybe they leave out that you would like to see in reviews? And is that something you can incorporate into your own? Just leave it open. Whoever wants to jump in.
Yeah, we were just talking about gross out horror. So raise your hand if you've ever read Cows or even know what that book is. Okay, well.
Oh, Clay does.
Don't be
I
mad
do
at
know
me
what it is.
unless you read it and you're like, oh, cool. Joseph recommended me that book.
Yeah.
Just you knew what it was.
I'm not going to read it.
It feels like it's one of those like kind of like gateway books when it comes to extreme horror. Like if you've even heard of the genre, you've probably heard of the book. And a lot of the reviews that I read, either like amateur or professional, always focus in on the gross out aspects of that story instead of focusing on the other more broad themes.
Yeah, that's we see that in movies as well. There's one I reviewed that everyone was jumping on the bandwagon about. Oh, this is so extreme, and I was in stitches. And the director hates my guts now, which is I guess another bonus. It's like, oh, double whammy. But yeah, is there anything that you've seen in a review? Like I said, when you read reviews or you watch them, that you think's missing from the review or an aspect that's not covered? That's kind of the question.
What I like to see in reviews is a lot of thoughts about the author's dialogue, because a lot of the time, if I'm reading a book and I just can't stand how the dialogue is written, it just ruins it for me. Even if it was like a good idea, like a good plot, it's just I can't get over the dialogue. So I wish I saw more reviews with a little bit of opinions on the dialogue.
Right. So is that something then? Is there a gap in the market, so to speak?
Maybe.
Maybe look at it as an opportunity. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting
I know
frustrated.
this
I'm
whole
not saying this.
conversation is like, what do I actually want to bring to the review table?
But there you go.
Yeah.
But you have to ask before you start. You have to answer that question, because you're going to destroy yourself, because if you don't know and then you do the wrong thing, or you don't know why you're doing the reviews.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it can't just be about notice me once again, because it's the same with self-promotion.
yeah.
If that's the only motivation you got, you're gonna fail, because you're not going to be invested in what you're doing. You have to like writing. If you're not invested in what you're doing, you're only doing it to get a product out there and to get a name. Well, you're not going to last too long either.
Right.
Because you know what I mean. It's all about integrity. Another thing is, hold on, there's more. There's a structure to reviewing properly, positive feedback, elements that need to be improved, and overall conclusion. Do you follow those rules and structures? Well, I don't. I don't think I give the same review twice, same style review.
Yeah.
Mine's more discussional style. It's this, and it might just be how I react to that piece of medium. Well, and the bits that maybe rankle me, that's what I'll focus on. But that won't be the same, because the next one I might really enjoy it, or I might really enjoy an aspect, and that's what I'll focus on. It really depends on how it hits me emotionally, because that's what I try to do with my style. Oh, right. For written reviews, it's the same thing though.
Yeah.
Yeah. The rules.
I don't follow a format.
If you have like a 10-point, okay, plot, some people do.
Yeah.
Plot, characters, summary, bad points. You know what I mean? That's and that's fine. But how many people are doing that? That's back into the sort of copy and paste thing, isn't it? And then if it hits you, because it should be an emotional reaction. Yes, you can analyze, but you need to feel something about the piece that you're reviewing, one way or the other. And then what you're essentially doing, I think anyway, is explaining your feelings about it. why is it niggling at you? Why is it not landing? Why are you not enjoying it? Why are you, or on the flip side, why are you enjoying it? What was the bits that really got you excited that you wanted to flip to the next page? And I think that's hard to constrain into, because if it's a different style of storytelling that you haven't encountered before, it mightn't fit into those 10 points. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, there might be something that sticks out to you that's not necessarily in that template, and you need to tell that. Like, oh, this author's style or prose or something like that really stuck with me, whereas that wouldn't normally be in like the 3 points I would have brought up.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why I like the sort of informal conversation about it, because you're just saying things that you noticed.
Yeah, that's that's it, and it's taking that style, making it yourself. Like I said, there's nothing wrong with having the points, but it's giving yourself enough wiggle room that if something doesn't fit in there, that you're once again, and you want to talk about it, because if you do want to talk about it, then you're enjoying what you're doing. But if you're always constrained, not tying yourself into, or boxing yourself in, that you're like, oh, right, got to squeeze it into these 3 points. No, there might be a 4th point, or you might change a point.
Yeah.
So I'm just checking the chat here while we're.
Oh, that's a good point, because when I came into this and I was thinking about written reviews, I was thinking it would be helpful to have a template. But the more we talk, the more I think I'm just not going to do written reviews, because that sounds terrible.
An hour and your mind has
sounds
changed.
way better.
That's what this is a brainstorm. There's no. You can do written reviews, but a different, it could be a different style. Or how does the panel feel about numeric rating systems for books, movies? Helpful or too simplistic? Chris is asking that because he knows I don't like giving ratings. What do you guys feel about it? I don't like giving ratings.
I think ratings are great for, or like numeric or stars or whatever, are great for headlines. But as far as overall scores, that should just be obvious from the review.
Yeah, I think it's something good for a glance. If a review is something that you want to consume, boiling something down to 4 out of 5 stars is, too light.
And on fermented fiction, we go total chaos with it. So instead of rating something on a star numerical system, we rate it by how many beers do you need to drink to enjoy this movie to the fullest. So sometimes things are just like a 30 pack. We rated this a 30 rack because you have to be hammered to enjoy this movie. Or just drink one so that you really can absorb all the nuance and everything of this movie.
Yeah.
So I think they're bullshit. Sorry, do I cuss on here? I don't know if I did. I figured I did.
Fuck it. Here, once again, have you seen this channel?
Yeah.
Oh God, we were on Cameron and I were on another channel, right? And we're basically doing a review of the entire Hellraiser series, all 11 movies, right? And if you've seen our review on Hellraiser, like if you've read the novella, you know what Frank was resurrected out of. And the poor wee guy, he's only a young lad, and I mean his cheeks were scarlet, because if you're a Barker fan, you're talking about penises and you're talking about all sorts of stuff. And his face was just red, and the reason it's taking so long to get out because he's having to edit, and I even give him here you go, here's a sound effect that's censor it, and here's a wee spludge thing you can put over my mouth that goes every time I'm talking about man juice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good. Well, yeah, I think they're bullshit. I think, like Just said, they're good for reading. Like, if you got a 5-star from some author, that's great for put it on the cover of your book or whatever. But at the end of the day, that's just a piece of the puzzle. But it's not the genuine.
But there's Amazon. Sorry, go ahead.
Add on top of that as well. What do you guys think would be more effective if you're kind of iffy on a book? You grab the back cover. One of the reviews says 5 stars, or it's just like a paragraph going like, "I love this book because this, this, and this."
Yeah, this one. Sure.
How many times have you? I'll use the June Messiah one as an example again. I was given that 4 stars, and then it ended up 3 stars when I thought about it, even during the review. if I go back, I might even now I'm thinking about it, I might go back and give it 2 stars. You
Mhm.
know, your rating, initial rating mightn't be one when you think about it for a while and go back, and you're kind of locked in. And that's why I don't like them. You know, it's and look at Amazon. Amazon's a good example. It's become like the Ubers and stuff where everyone's expecting a 5 star. And if you don't give it, what did I do wrong? Have you ever given less than a 5 star on an Uber trip and all of a sudden you're getting pinged with all these, what did we do wrong? Blah, blah, blah. And you're like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Amazon, if you're a horror fan, reviews are a fantastic resource. If you sort by 1 star and see just exactly how in particular that one reader got pissed off by that book, they will try to go in details to saying as to why that's the bad thing, but in reality, that's exactly what I'm looking for.
Yeah, and that was a point we made at the start, is that reviewers are useful, even if you don't agree with them. If you know a particular reviewer, and that's why if you build your own style and your own reputation, as opposed to worrying about fitting in for your peers, if somebody knows that you'll like something that they won't, that's as valuable as a review as just looking for
Yeah.
people to agree with. And I've used that, like I said, of Buddy Adam on his channel. If he recommends a movie, there's 9 times out of 10 I'm not going to like it. You know what I mean? And actually give him ribbon about it. It's fun. But when we do find out one we both like, it's great. You know, it's a great laugh. But it's almost just as much fun when he's like, "Oh, you should really check us out. It's great." And I'm like, "Nah, mate, you're recommending it. I'm going to hate it." Or when the likes of bloody Deller goes, "Yeah, try this found footage movie. You'll really like it this time." Yeah, mate. Yeah, nice try. You've cut me out twice now. Not happening again. Do you know what I mean? It's almost
Mhm.
and it's not disrespecting the person. It's not, you know what I mean? It can be banter, it can be fun, it can be friendship. We don't this idea that we all have to agree lockstep with everything is nonsense. And just because somebody reviews something and they really like it doesn't mean they're a bad reviewer. They just have a particular slant and as long as they're honest, telling you what they like and what they
Yeah.
don't like and why, and you know that's that person's preference, then you respect them when they give their opinion. And I think that's something as a reviewer you should aim for. And I hope that's something I give across when I'm doing mine, that people know that I'm not going to say I like something when I don't, and vice versa. You know, it's just people know what to get. Which is another point, actually. We all deal with creators. We all are friends with creators. How do you deal when somebody gives you something to review and you don't like it, but it's somebody you know?
I
You
give
have
a
to
3-star review, and I say something that I thought was good about it, and I never talk about it again.
You get a nice shiny bum sitting on the fence. Just get yourself really comfortable on there and just like.
Yep, exactly. Yep, I bring my own saddle and everything.
You have to give the most constructive feedback you can possibly without it being what is it? Not like not trying to be mean, but just trying to really point them in the direction of like, here's where I think this could improve. Here's what I think really needs to do better. Here's where I need you to. Here's what doesn't work for me and why. Because it's always infuriating to get feedback of just, oh, I didn't like it just because, and they don't tell you why not, right? But if you can explain like the way the style that you write or the story for me doesn't work because of this reason, and this reason, and then go on to even further of like, hey, maybe try doing this. As long as you're able to give them constructive, actual criticism that would be helpful, is the goal for that.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's twice, Darius. Yeah, that's the review. That's the one I. The director hates my guts now. That was that was another Midsummer. That was an amazing review we did. That was hilarious.
That one's right for good
So
conversation.
So much fun reviewing that one.
And I would like to chime in too. I agree with Joseph for sure. If I am talking to someone behind closed doors, the 3-star never talk about it again is simply how I address that on a public way. In a public way. But yeah, definitely always like if you know the person, give them good critique, give them constructive feedback and tips. Not tips necessarily, but like the things that worked and didn't work for you. Everybody has a right to know that if they trust you and are fellow creative.
That was an awkward review I had to do because Chris did send me a gift. I wasn't expecting it. And I'm like, oh, thanks very much, mate. I haven't got, because there was a whole thing with it. I was last voyage of the Demeter, and we couldn't get over here in the UK. There was a whole fluff up with the distribution.
Mm.
And I got annoyed because I couldn't get to see it in the cinema. And then obviously got the Blu-ray, and then I watched it, and yeah.
And you didn't like it.
That was what, especially when you're going live as well, and you're like, oh god, I've got to, yeah.
I
and this
still
is a
want to
gift.
see it. So
I thought, you know what I mean? That's once
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
Another
That's like-
another indicator was Adam liked it, my mate. So there's an indicator I wasn't going to like it. He loved it. So it all ties together. So you have that awkwardness of, yeah, I just got this as a gift. I should, and I don't want to sound ungrateful because it's a really nice gesture, but this is pants. I hated it but I give the reasons why, things that didn't land for me, and then the bits that did, a few bits were, but why overall I just like, oh god.
It's a very nice gift. Thank you. It's going to make a great decoration on my Blu-ray shelf.
That's it.
Well, that's like just my husband and myself. We have such different movie tastes. Like we went and saw Renfield, and I knew going in I was probably going to love it because it would be campy and ridiculous, and Nicolas Cage as Dracula. I will love that. And I walked out, and sure enough, I loved it. And I just knew. I was like, so you hated it, right? And he was like, yeah, I will never watch that again. And I'm like, okay, cool.
My only problem with
I've
Renfield
watched that about 6 times.
There weren't more scenes with Nick Cage as Dracula. I thought he was hilarious.
Love it.
Yeah. It was it's when he did the Bela Lugosi at the start and all as well, and managed to do that, and just absolutely had so much fun with that movie. Like I said, I've watched it about 6 times now. That's going to become one of my go-tos where I need a laugh. Bunk in the machine.
Yeah.
I love seeing a movie in theaters and being the only one there that clearly liked it, which was my experience when I saw Skinamarink.
God, what was it?
How did you manage to like that movie?
Skinamarink had the curse of breaching containment for its targeted audience, which is why so many people didn't like it, right? But I was very used to that kind of style of analog horror, and also kind of caught up of appreciating it more for what it was than actually enjoying the movie in the moment. You know what I mean? Knowing for a fact I'd never see anything like that in a theater ever again kind of helped add to the mystique and magic to it. But when it was over, there were people like booing. It was amazing.
I think I managed 4 minutes.
Yeah, I was about there, Colin.
I was like 4 minutes. I'm like, nah.
I don't think I would like to actually watch something, I guess was my thing. But yeah, it's a conversation for another time, perhaps.
That's what I'm saying. But that's what I mean. This is all part of the reviewing process. You're okay. What didn't like? I don't like found footage. I didn't like that there was no. I like a story. Like I said, the 2 things I look for when I review: storytelling, characterization. I need those 2 things to be on board. Art piece is not like something I enjoy, but I've only watched once or twice. Is Phil Tippett's Mad God. Now there's no story to that whatsoever, but it's just a visual piece. But I'm not after. I don't know the first initial sort of story that figurine's trying to carry the bomb down. I just switched off because then everything was just it was just images. So I was going to make a cup of tea and all while watching because just wasn't invested. And looked pretty, but wasn't for me. But then I explained it why. There was a sort of storyline, but then it just got cut off, and then just goes into like it's visual art piece, just things happening for the sake of it. That does not land with me. Now there's people that love that sort of stuff, and that's fair play to them as long as they explain. Yeah, but also you explain why, and that's cool. Once again, this isn't a right or wrong, and the people that will then follow you for your reviews will know. Okay, that's his sort of jam. I'll go and watch it too because I I agree with that, or yeah, this is where he really goes, so I'll stay away from it, because then as long as you sort of, it's about finding your voice, I suppose,
Hmm.
and communicating. And once you can do that, then that's it. You're golden, and then you're not working at this. I keep saying that this should not be hard work. You should not be straining yourself to do this sort of thing, because it's a lot of time to be, especially when you've got your money making projects. This is a sort of side project, and it's partly marketing, but you may as well just do normal marketing if you're going to be like sweating over doing a review.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be hurting yourself writing those couple of paragraphs because it's not in your flow and your style, and only you know what that is. I mean, nobody can tell you what your style is. People can say, "Oh yeah, I like it when you write it that way," or "I like it when you present that way." That's okay. You know what the audience is looking for. But if it doesn't, if you're really fighting against yourself to do it, or it's really tearing you apart, and you're exhausted, then it's not going to be your style, because it's not going to flow naturally.
Hmm.
Frequency is another thing. Really need to consider how often are you going to do these, because once again, especially in the indie scene, you're going to get, the minute you're out there as a reviewer, you're going to get bombarded. Will you review this? Will you review that? And it's managing expectations. It's like any form of customer service. Managing expectations, like number one thing. Have you thought about how much time you're going to set aside for this? Anyone jump in? Just
one a month.
For the formats too. Sorry, did I cut you off there, Thorne?
No, you go for it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it really depends on formats too, because I know that like with video sets like YouTube and TikTok, they really incentivize that you upload all the time, to the point where they pretty much just actively punish you if you take way too much time off.
I had that last week. I had family stuff going on, and actually had friends jump in to keep the channel going, because I knew just having a week off, flipping, it gets buried.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's awful, but at the same time, you can't be a slave to the algorithm, because it's back to that. If this is burning you out doing it, then
Right.
it's going to have a detriment effect as opposed to a positive.
You can't hurt yourself.
No, because it's not worth it. Because this does directly affect your own creativity. It affects your mindset. It affects, the time you spend. And if it does, burn you out, then it's going to, that's a whole domino effect then. So you gotta manage your own expectations. Yes, there are algorithms, yeah, but then how do you supplement it? The review is part of a larger process, isn't it? If it's where are you going to do the review, are you going to set up an entirely new channel? Or are you going to use your existing social media presence and have it as part of it? Because there's so many options.
Right.
So if you're going to do a review and you've got a social media page, is it a social media post in addition to your other ones, so you're not feeling left out? Is it if it's going to be a blog, are you going to maybe look at putting resources with other reviewers? So if you're all doing it once a month, somebody does it at the beginning of the month, somebody does it at the end, somebody does it in the middle, and then you're satisfying the algorithm requirements, and it's not just you.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? That's always an option. I've always like, my offer is that anybody that's worked with a channel is always welcome back. So there's another, even if it's not your own channel, you're still being seen, and you can still link to the videos that you've taken part. So there you go. You're satisfied. You're still generating reviews and social media presence without the pressure of running an entire channel or site yourself.
Yeah.
And that's another thing to think about, is the frequency. And then if the frequency is going to be low, then you got to think, okay, is it worth me doing an entire platform for a once a month review, or is there a way we can pull resources? For example, you've already got a platform, the Horror Writers Association Seattle chapter. So do you post a review to the chapter?
On our blog.
Yeah. But why not?
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah. Which I've opened it up to our chapter members if they ever want to do a blog series on our platform, that they're just have to send it to us. Which Clay has his own series on our platform. So
there you
once a
go.
month.
There's the pressure reduced of operating an entire platform on yourself. You're putting resources. You're still developing your voice. Another thing is as well, if someone, when you've two different styles, then it's not just a repetitive blog. You're getting people might follow a particular reviewer when they see them because they like that style. But then if somebody doesn't like that particular one, they're still hitting that website. So you know what I mean. There's always like I said, there's 100 ways to skin a cat. You don't have to get locked into that corner.
Yeah.
I think it all kind of depends too, right? None of us here on our side here, and maybe I'm not talking for you, of course, Colin, but none of us here really want to be known as reviewers. But I feel like it would be a great way to help boost some social media engagement if we post a review, especially if it's like a current, very talked about piece of media at the time. So if I want to get like engagement when it comes to my platform, I could probably talk about a movie that's out or a book that's out that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, that's it. And you're not just going, notice me. Yeah, we had that sort of conversation. Because that's the thing creators hate, is that self-promotion or being that person. This is a good way to do it, yeah. And you're also letting the audience get to know you. Because then they get to know what makes you tick. And then they sort of stick with you for you. And then you're obviously the knock-on effect is then they want to look at your work. Because then they're like, oh, right, well, if that's what you think about this, then what's your writing like?
Especially when it comes from a place of authenticity and talking about a piece of media that you really enjoy.
Yeah.
100%.
That was a question I have for you, Colin. So obviously you're very organic focused on creating these reviews, and authenticity is kind of first and foremost. But is there a few things that you make sure to get into every review and maybe not consider it a complete review without them?
Yeah, so always talk about the characters. I always talk about the characters and always talk about the storyline, the actual overarching story. Is there one? That always the two things I'll talk about. When movies, especially with horror, I'll always talk about the effects.
Right.
That'll come in because there was one I reviewed recently there, Destroy All Neighbors. And I gushed over that movie because it was using old school effects and they looked 100 times better than any $300 million Hollywood production right now. Like that was so much fun. And is it Derek Winters? Absolutely owned that role. As the character he created, Vlad, he owned that. You didn't recognize him; you just saw the character, and that was brilliant. So there are always things I'll talk about in a movie, and then I'll go off on about 100 tangents as well, depending on the chat. Because I'm there to hang out as well. Because it's not there's nothing worse talking on this wee thing into the void and not getting any feedback. It's horrible.
Yeah. I don't know if
there you
anybody
go.
else.
I like to analyze the characters. Yeah, because I love characters. Likes to point out things that didn't work and it's good. It's plus 200 tangents along the way. See, everyone knows my style.
Let's keep people coming back.
They know that if you turn up in one of my reviews, I could go anywhere. And there's times I've just had full random discussions and I better talk about the movie again, hadn't I? It's just
Tangents are sort of the sugar coating to the medicine of the review in a lot of way. It's like you're part of the conversation. It's the fun.
Yeah, and that's it. That's my style. My style is I'm talking to you about it, and I'm interested as well. And that's why I try to post my review, the streams ahead of time that people know they're coming up. So it's like, right, if you're coming on, watch the thing as well. So if you've got a different opinion from me, let's talk about it. It doesn't have to be nasty. If anyone's nasty, it's cheerio, bye. I've no time for that. but it's all about this chat as friends. That's the whole thing I try to bring across. And obviously, I do have friends, so there you go. It's it works. There's Animal. Talking about you earlier and your wonderful taste in movies. Everyone's a reviewer if they have an opinion. What makes a good reviewer is being critical and honest, even when you love the IP or media. Yep. There's stuff I've wanted to like. In fact, they're my most frustrating reviews when I know there's a good story there, the potential, and it's just been fluffed up some way. And you're like,
Gotcha.
oh, why'd you do that?
Last Voyage of the Demeter.
Yeah. All I can say is some people are wrong. that was a movie I really wanted to like. And I was so bloody frustrated. And then I got annoyed and angry because I was like, what the hell?
I know, it's my favorite part of Dracula. I was stoked about it.
Yeah.
But Brianna still has to watch it, so.
I'm going
Like I
into
said,
it
some people
knowing
are
I'm gonna
wrong.
love it.
That's true. Brianna knows she's gonna love it anyway.
Yeah,
It's a win-win.
I
No,
saw the
that's it.
trailer in theaters and I was like, I'm gonna love it. I
Mhm.
know it. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to your review. Okay, everyone's got
Okay.
homework, right? For next week, the last voyage of the Demeter. Let's go. I want every one of you to do a review on that movie in your own style. No copying and pasting.
Okay.
You think I'm joking?
No, I can do that. Yeah.
No, actually, I'm just talking because there's one thing talking about everything in theory, but actually, in practice, that's one thing. Do you want to do that then? Do you want to make out a if nobody's reviewed that movie before? Because it'd be quicker than a book. Obviously, a book could take a bit of time to read, even if it's not what even if you're not planning to do movies. Right, let's do that. Okay, and then what I will do is in the comments section after the stream ends, because obviously this video stays up on YouTube. If you send me the links to your reviews in whatever format, then I'll post them in the comments. So anyone that comes back to the stream then a week later, because this stays up. That's the beauty of this stays up. So yeah, okay. So let's do that then. Use review Last Voyage of the Demeter. Think of your style of reviews, how you're gonna go about it, and then when you produce it, send me the link, and then I'll put it in the description. And obviously, I'll tell you whether you're right or wrong.
Rate us as a teacher,
yeah. Rate us.
I'll rate your review. I'll review your reviews, and then that'll be a live stream. Okay, and we'll bring them all up. And we'll do it. Just
this is why they're wrong.
What do they know anyway? Nah, I'm not like that. I'm just. As you may know, there's one thing about a banter. That's why, like, the reason I go on because they're obviously I've got friends in the chat there, and they know my sense of humor. I would never do that to somebody I don't know, because if you don't know somebody's sense of humor, then it'd be like, what?
I have a question here for you, Colin. I got here late, so apologies if this has already been brought up. But I guess can we talk a little bit about a wrong review? Because if you're genuinely reacting to something and how it made you feel, it feels a little subjective to me as to how that could be wrong. But then again, I have seen some pretty bad takes on movies lately. So,
okay, so the worst type of review is, I hated that review, or I hated that, it was shit. That's it. What's that telling anybody? Or I really like this, and if you don't, you're a horrible person. You're not in our camp. I hate that sort of, this tribal nonsense going on with reviews. So one camp decides to like something, and the only reason they like it is because they're part of a camp.
Yeah.
And people don't like it because they're not, part of the other camp or whatever. That is so painful. I'm just
I hated this Corey movie, and if you watch it, you're also weird.
Yeah. what's that tell? You know what I mean? That's just those type of reviews, or and it's this whole thing being the shill and the edgelord scale. You know, where you're just saying you like something and you're not coming across as genuine, and you're only
Sellouts.
doing it because you're trying to get access to a media company. So you'll never criticize in any shape or form. That becomes really obvious. I don't know if you're familiar with a reviewer called Grace Randolph.
No.
Look her up and try not to get a headache listening to her nasally voice for 5 minutes. But there's an example of a shill. Just, you know, everything's whatever the corporate says, and no. What was it? I thought this is great. I really liked it. Yeah, okay. What's that tell me? No, it actually has no opinion apart from the script. There's another one. He's called Rageaholic, and he's an example of an edgelord.
Okay.
You know, leather jacket, sunglasses. I don't like this because I'm so edgy. Yeah, look at me. Yeah, hyperbolic statements. You know, all the way through, but no actual substance. And you're like, yeah, okay, yeah, right. You know, those two types, I instantly switch off from. I think as if you don't give any context, that's a bad review. If you do not give a reason, either or,
Yeah.
you're allowed to not like something that other people like. You're allowed to like things that other people don't. But as long as you're not being antagonistic about it, you know, well, if you don't like this, well, fuck you. You know, what's that? What good's that to anybody?
Yeah.
You know, all that is saber rattling and getting a gang on board, but it's not actually. And then once you get trapped in that, then you can't change your opinion. Like I said, there's things people have watched me give a review, and I've started off going, I really like this, and then as I go through it and go, actually, I don't like this. Seriously, I've actually changed my opinion midstream as I've thought through the plot points and what I'm going through. I started off thinking I liked something, the initial reaction, and then as I've talked through it, I'm going, God, I actually hate this. Or the other way, you know, I've watched something I really not liked it, and then I've started talking my way through it, and then I'm like, you know, I think I was wrong there when I first thought, and I've done, you know, and you're doing it live, so you can't really change. You can't hide the fact that you're changing your opinion there on the spot. That's why I like doing it live too, because I like people to see my thought process. But somebody that just comes out hyperbolic statement, just trying to stir it up, but doesn't give any context as to why. That's not a good review.
People want measured and fair analysis.
Yeah, and that doesn't mean you have to like everything or you have to hate everything. You know, it's a change, and even yourself, you can contradict yourself as long as you're honest about it. Going, well, actually, I thought this, but now I'm thinking again, maybe not. I hadn't. Or if somebody asks a question, that's always a good one. That's why I like the live one. If somebody asks me a particular question about something, and I go, do you know what? I didn't think it from that angle, and then I think about, go, do you know what? You're right. Actually, maybe that's why it was annoying me, because I didn't think it, look at it through that lens. And then that, you know, I'm formulating my opinion on the spot. So that's, you know, that's kind of the way I do reviews, which is, you know, I don't think many people do it that way. But yeah, the bad ones just, you've no context or whatever. It's just, yeah, really like this. Oh, I hate this shit, you know. Oh yeah, thanks. That isn't copy and pasted 100 times in Amazon reviews or whatever. You know, that's telling me nothing.
Yeah, well, if you can't offer an opinion about it, if you can't offer context for your opinion, then you're doing it for a different reason than just like genuine interest in the craft, I think.
Yeah, a good review is critical. You may not agree as a viewer with the review, but you should be honest to the integrity of the review. Yeah, like talked about earlier, there's people with that'll like things I won't, and that review to me is just as valuable, because that steers me towards maybe picking up that book or reading it. If I know that person likes something that I maybe don't, and they're really enjoying something, that's going to tell me not to pick it up. But that's me valuing the reviewer while not necessarily agreeing with them. And there's people, like I said, there's people who just follow you from that, and it's not hate watching. It's not hating you as a person or as a viewer. They're just understanding that, yeah, I don't agree with you, but I know where you come from, so you're actually guiding me, and that's just as important as just always being around people I agree with all the time.
I like reviews that teach. I've seen analysis of certain things on YouTube. It's like, oh, I've not thought about how to look at this way before. This opens doors to this part of this art. I'd not thought about elements XYZ. That's valuable to me.
Yeah, or you never thought about looking, like I said, somebody will pop up something, you go, I never thought of that. I like that sort of thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it's I think you all have I'm getting the impression you all have a clear actual idea in your minds of what you looked for. It's just how you articulate it. And once you figure that out, you're golden. But best thing to do is just do it. You'll never find out until you can sit and do all the theory of the day, or you can plan stuff out until you actually just go, right, either type or switch on the camera, whatever it is. You'll never really find out. And
Yeah.
you're allowed to change as well. If you start doing one style and then you find it's not working for you, that's part of the progression too.
Yeah, go find your landmines.
Mm-hmm.
Go stumble into it.
And laugh at them. Importantly, laugh at them when they blow up.
Yeah. Oh, my leg. Oh, great.
Yeah.
Those grow back.
So I suppose the final thing is just obviously we've made that pledge now. You're all gonna do last voyages of the meter. So I'm looking forward to those reviews. But what's next for you? What are you thinking next? To actually turning this into reality now, or has this put you off completely? You're like, nah. You want to do anti-clockwise? Start with Brianna and work our way.
All right.
What's your plan? What can people look forward to?
Yeah, I mean, I guess I really just wanted to get more consistent with actually reviewing the books that I read. And so I think this is sort of making it a little easier, to figure out what my point of view, voice, and all of that could be, and just to actually do it. And if I don't like doing written reviews, then maybe I'll try something else.
Excellent. Thorin?
Yeah. I've never intended to be like a full reviewer, but I think that thinking about what a good review is helps me write well as well.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of a game plan, what I learned today was, not having a gimmick, but having an idea behind it. Stand out, be meaningful. It's like, so what?
Yep. Excellent. Clay?
Yeah, I'm always looking for ways to kind of like build on my platform and experimenting. And I like this idea we all kind of came up with in the brainstorm of just taking my fermented fiction model and making it a one-player game. So I think I'm going to try that, and maybe I'll do like a once monthly thing at first and see how it goes.
Yep, excellent. And last but not least, Joseph?
I think, if anything, this panel really helped reinforce the idea that authenticity is everything when it comes to who you are, either as a reviewer or a writer. As long as you're being authentic and pouring your own feelings out, people are going to appreciate that.
What's your plan?
I'm going to go back to bed after this.
Yeah. You have to do something. It's not just...
Really what I'm going to do is take what I've learned here from this and give it to, or use it as a way to help give even better feedback to the people who are coming to me for advice when it comes to their writing. I've never really seen myself as like a serious reviewer in terms of that. I know I have my own podcast, but that's more for joking around about movies that we like.
All right, excellent. No, that's the important thing. Just take it and make it, you could do all the theory, but it's having a plan, and then until you actually hit the ground running, you'll not know. But I hope this was useful anyway. Like I said, I didn't want it to be a super formal PowerPoint,
no
blah, blah,
PowerPoint.
blah lesson, because that's not the way I do. And it's nice to see the conversation getting going after, like I said, a few minutes, everyone started warming up, and then we'll get into it. So this is fun. Good chat. And like I said, we're looking forward to seeing those reviews, see what you all think. But everyone, thanks very much for coming on. Everyone in the chat, thanks for joining in. Great to have you as always.
Yeah,
for those that watch this after the fact, keep an eye on the description. Once those reviews come in, I'll be posting the links. I will be chasing folks up, so stand by. You will get hounded. I'll give you about a week and a half, and then that's it. I'm coming after you. Where is it? Where is it? Come on. But
All right.
as always, tomorrow we've got the talk spot. Then later on that night, I've got another chat with Lee Rozelle, an independent author. I've got Quatermass Experiment on Monday. We're back with the Tremor series on Tuesday. And after that, I think I've got a game on Wednesday. So there's plenty going on over the next week and a half. So just easy to say, keep up to date with the channel, do the typey clicky things, and until next time, keep it creepy, keep it horrific.